Sky, they built a glass paradise way too high. Then the bubble pop, the silent sound of foreclosure signs are all over town. I got a bad loan, a promise they believe. Now the dream is over, they're feeling deceived. I watch from the sidelines, patient and cool, playing by a different set of rules. All I wanna do is, I love when do is take the window. All I wanna do is, and I'll cash your heart and watch the funds grow. This is straight up capitalism, chip, chip, boom. Sweeping up the pieces with the concrete boom. When I do, when I do, when I do. Get a call from my contact, a whisper on the phone. Another empty unit, the speculator is gone. He says a shame with a crocodile tears. He sells me their future for a fraction of last year. The paperwork's easy, a cash only deal. That heartbreak and panic is my next big steal. They get a cardboard box, I get the ocean view. It's nothing personal, it's just what I do. And a casual body, take your condo. And a casual body, and watch the dance floor. This is straight up capitalism, chick, chick, boom. Sweeping up the pieces with the concrete broom. When I do wrong, when I do wrong, when I do. Some myself ask for a quick return. Some I rent out, let the lesson burn. They call it a crisis, I call it a sale. In this concrete jungle, the strongest prevail. No funny business, I am the business. They sold you a lead, now I'm the witness. Seek your condo.
Happy Thursday, Miami. It's Condo Capitalism, a podcast about what's going on in the distressed real estate market. Today, we're going to be talking about the 400 condos that are available for sale that are bank owned. They're called REO, which stands for Real Estate Owned by the Lender. We're going to get into all the details about where are they located, what are they trading for, why are they 44% cheaper than the overall asking price today in South Florida. So we'll go through, we'll talk about South Florida, we'll talk about Miami-Dade County, we'll talk about Broward, we'll also talk about Palm Beach County. You know what else we're going to get into? We're going to take a look and see what percentage of those bank-owned condos that are currently on the market today are actually vintage. Vintage are the units that are at least 30 years old or older. So if you're out there looking for a deal and you're a buyer, maybe you want to buy from a bank because in theory it could be cheaper. But then again, maybe it's not. Maybe that's why we have 14 months of supply, which is a buyer's market, firm buyer's market. So that's what we're going to get into today. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Every Thursday at 4 o'clock, I go live with Condo Capitalism. It is a discussion about what's going on in the distressed condo market. We deal with discounting. We deal with sort of basically opportunities. Where are the opportunities right now from a price per square foot basis, as well as a price per door basis or price per unit basis. Before I go ahead and get into some of the details, let me just remind everybody, this Saturday, we are going to be doing one of our regular walking tours. We do them every Saturday from 10 to 1 o'clock, walk about 4 miles, go at a moderate pace. I give everybody a handout of all the condo projects that exist within a particular area. I teach you how to analyze condos. I tell you some history about the particular neighborhood. And basically, we get a couple laughs in besides getting your steps. So if anybody's interested in getting more information about this tour, which is going to be Coconut Grove. It's our premier tour of Coconut Grove. Never done Coconut Grove before, and I've been doing these tours since 2013. But we're running the data. We're getting through. We've surpassed 5,000 condo units in Coconut Grove. I never would have guessed that there'd be 5,000. I had no idea how many units were actually in Coconut Grove, but now we know. And that's why we're grinding it out. And if you come on the tour on Saturday, you're going to get a list of all of the condo projects that exist in the Coconut Grove area, which the way we define it is going to be Dixie Highway south to Biscayne Bay. Then it'll be the Rickenbacker Causeway all the way west over to Lejeune. There's a little bit of an area down off of Lejeune right by Cocoa Plum, which is going to go towards the Gables rather than Coconut Grove. But we'll get into all the details there. So if you're interested in Coconut Grove market, you want to know what's going on from a condo perspective, you're invited to come on out. This is a rain or shine tour, and dress comfortably because we'll be wandering around. We'll have some stops along the way. It's not going to be that overwhelming in terms of being strenuous, but yet you'll get your steps in and you're definitely going to have some laughs. So let's go ahead and let's get into today's discussion. Given the fact that this is condo capitalism, given the fact that we focus on the distressed market and kind of what's going out there, increasingly what we're seeing is that people are falling behind who own their condos. Why are they falling behind? Well, a lot of it has to do with what happened with the 2021 collapse of the Surfside condo projects. The tower called Champlain Tower South. Nearly 100 people died. There's a $1 billion settlement paid out to the families of the victims. As a result of that, the insurance companies or the industry, they lobbied the Florida legislature. Florida legislature adopted a bunch of changes. Basically, the big takeaway from the changes is transparency. Transparency, transparency, transparency. Doesn't matter if it has to do with the information that's available from the condo association boards to individual unit owners and would-be buyers, or it also has to do with what is the shape of the building, the life safety aspect. Nobody wants to see another repeat of Surfside. That was a complete tragedy, and state as well as the insurance companies are moving forward to try to avoid it again. Now, as of 2026, condo associations who are required to do a study every 10 years called the Structural Integrity Reserve Study, and at year 30, a milestone inspection before the cost could be deferred, no longer. Now, based on the study, the condo association has to put in place a plan to pay for all the work that's outlined in the study. Studies done by licensed architect, licensed engineers. Beginning in 2026, the money's got to start to be collected. It can be collected either in the form of reserves, hitting up every individual unit owner. Typically, they get about 1 year to pay. That's what an association will give you. Go ahead and collect that information, collect the money to go ahead and begin the work, or a condo association can obtain a loan. Problem is with getting a loan is chances are it's not coming from a bank. It's probably coming from a Wall Street private lender. And as a result of that, interest rates can be 9, 10, 11%. Mortgage rate today is somewhere in the 6% range, just to give you an idea. So that's very expensive money, and that is creating some havoc out in the marketplace. As a result of that, at least 2 condo projects have filed for bankruptcy. They're filing for bankruptcy. They can't raise the cash. They don't want to raise the cash, and now basically they're asking the court to walk them through the process. We'll have to see how these 2 projects, one's in Delray Beach, the other one is going to be in Miami Beach. We'll have to see how it goes forward. Is it a reorganization, or is it ultimately a liquidation of these condo projects? Why? Because the cost of living in a condo has gone up significantly because of all the work that's now got to be done and no longer deferred. Because remember, that was one of the big issues related to the Surfside condo collapse. There was stuff that was identified in the association simply didn't have the money, nor could they raise the money to do the necessary work. And ultimately, we had that tragedy that came out of it. So as a result of that, I decided to go ahead and dig into what's going on in the foreclosure market, especially what's called an REO, a real estate owned. The way it works is typically you as a buyer, you obtain a mortgage. Once you obtain a mortgage, you have to go ahead and you have to pay your bank each and every month. If you miss roughly, and by the way, check with your attorney to get all the details, but I'm going to just tell you sort of what I know from my experience. Basically, once you're about 60 days late on your payment, bank will notify you that they're going to file a lis pendens, or maybe they will file a lis pendens. Basically, it's a flag notifying everybody that this bank is moving to try to get back its money because the borrower is in default. By the time you work your way through the process, if you have a homestead declaration, what's a homestead declaration? If you're a Florida resident and you claim a homestead declaration, you get added protections. There's also a slower process on the foreclosure. Let's call a homestead declaration. Let's say it's going to take about 12 months or so. It's a burgeoning industry, if you will, because we're nowhere near where we were back in 2008, 2009, 2010, and all of that. So this is just sort of get going. There's been a lot of technological advances. There's been some adjustments too in the way that the loans are now issued, and because of that, basically a homestead exemption. What I would ballpark it, and I'm going off the cuff here, 12 months. If the property is not homesteaded, if it's owned as basically an investor or second home, somewhere that's not your castle, if you will, You're probably looking at about a 6-month process once the notice of the default is filed or the lit pendants, which is going to take 2 months. So basically what we're talking about is probably about 8 months to as long as maybe a year and a half if you do some deferrals or you delay and you ask for an extension and stuff like that. But basically that's what the process is. So once the bank moves to remember, you miss 2 payments, the bank moves to foreclose, they begin the process. Let's say it's just an investor type of property. Let's add a year into that. Now we're 14 months into it. The bank ultimately ends up with the property if the property doesn't sell at an auction. And in the upcoming weeks, we're going to be going through the auction process. We'll show you how to do all of the things related to the auction. But ultimately, once the bank takes title because nobody has bid at the auction, then what happens? The bank's got to basically look to resell. They've already taken the hit on their books because they had the loss on the mortgage. Now they take title to it. And then what they'll look to do is they'll look to resell the property in order to reclaim some of the money that was written off, that was lost as a result of the foreclosure. So that's what an REO is. Once the bank has title to it, it becomes designated as an REO, which is real estate owned by the lender. Increasingly, the lender is a private lender rather than a traditional FDIC bank. What's the difference? If you walk in and you see that, a little sign that says FDIC, that's a bank. Otherwise, it's private money. Private money is typically more readily available, but it has much richer prices and much more aggressive or hard charging terms versus a bank, which is going to be a little bit more, I'm not going to say docile, but it's to be a little bit more tame. And the bankers do it a certain way. They're governed by the regulators versus the private money. Yeah, it's, it doesn't have the same oversight, let's say, from the feds. But again, check with your attorney, check with a lender, check with somebody. I'm just telling you kind of what I know. So as a result of that, because of the condo process and the cost of living in a condo going up because of Surfside back in June of 2021, we have still a bunch of people who are kind of getting jammed up. We called it in June of 2024. We said there was going to be a condo association financial cliff. And the cliff is basically when you can't afford to pay, or maybe you decide not to pay. Fewer people in an association, they then have to carry the burden of it all, and eventually services get cut. Those people fall behind or they stop paying, and you start to get into a selling process. A couple people sell their units, they sell them for cheap, and as a result, all of the pricing gets reset, much like the game Tetris, and so on and so forth. It begins what ultimately becomes a doom loop. Who's to say if we're going to go down one of these doom loops down here in South Florida, but I'm sure there will be buildings that are jammed up because people simply don't have the cash necessary in order to make up for all the deferred maintenance that should have been done over the course of years. And that's kind of where we stand today. And that's what leads us to this discussion about where are we right now in terms of the REO, remember, bank owned or lender owned, where are we right now in the REO market in South Florida? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my list with you. I'm going to show you all the details. We'll kind of walk our way through it, and you guys will get a good sense as to what the state is of the REO market right now at the end of February, keeping in mind, this is the busiest time possible to be shopping for a condo. Traditionally, what happens, people fly into South Florida for the winter buying season, which will go from November through April. By the time we get into May, it starts to get hot, it starts to get humid. Hurricane warnings are right around the corner as you get into June when hurricane season begins, and the number of buyers really sort of plummets. So anybody who's looking to get out, trying to avoid a foreclosure, this is probably a time that you really need to be aggressive. You need to sort of, be bold and cut your pricing because supply is growing, sales are falling, and prices are starting to unravel. So if you are looking to get out, you basically got about 60 days left. Once we get into May, game over. You might get lucky. You might be trolling and attract somebody, but chances are once May comes, it's going to become a much different scenario. And if you had been optimistic in the first half of the winter buying season, remember winter began in November. Once we got to February, you started to go on the wrong side of the bell curve, and now as we're moving closer to March, you're basically 2/3 the way through what is that busy time for shopping for a condo. And many transactions ultimately end up closing in the summer buying season, which will go from May through October. Why does it play out like that? Well, let's just we'll game it out. Somebody comes down here for an event, they come for vacation, they go on a cruise. They say, yeah, it's a pretty nice place. I might want to buy a place. Maybe we should move here in the future. Maybe we should relocate. Maybe we should get an investment. Or maybe we got a place for sometime when we retire. They start kicking the tires. They figure out the buildings. They make some offers. Ultimately, they go under contract. Add 30 days to close. If you got financing, add 60 days. And you can see very quickly, many of the places that were shopped for during the winter, they end up closing in the summer buying season. So that's pretty much how it goes. And for instance, if you're not able to basically get somebody under contract, by the time we get into June, you're basically going to go into a dead period, and it will not reignite again until September. Once Labor Day is passed, once the kids are back in school and the weather starts to change a little bit, the humidity level starts to fall, and the hurricane season gets closer and closer to the tail end of the really active time. Last year was a very inactive hurricane season. So as a result, maybe there would have been some deals done, but who's to say what's going to happen in this hurricane season? There's a university out in Colorado. They typically release a report saying how active it's going to be. I haven't heard it yet as to what this upcoming season will be. It's just a flip of the coin. You never really know how it plays out, but that's kind of the game plan. That's kind of the way, the rhythm, if you will, of the market. Now, I should remind everybody, I do these podcasts at 4:00 weekdays. I always have a podcast 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. It's always a different subject. But if you are interested in condos, I encourage you to tune in live, 4:00, MiamiCondo.club. Or if you want to watch these videos on demand, make them available typically that night. Sometimes we get jammed up. We release it the following day, but typically it's available that night. But in order to see the whole video on demand, you got to be a member of the Miami Condo Investing Club. The Miami Condo Investing Club is basically an organization, an ecosystem we're setting up for anybody related who's interested in condos, whether you're a buyer who would do DIYing it, you're a buyer working with a realtor. Maybe you're a realtor trying to figure out what's going on in the market. Why won't your listing sell? Maybe you're a lender. Maybe you're putting money on the street. You're not necessarily sure about the market, trying to get a better sense. Maybe you're a regulator. Maybe you're just a gadfly. But so if you are interested in condos, we are tracking this market probably more close than anybody else. I got down here in 1993. I've been in Miami for a long time. I've seen a bunch of different cycles, been through the ups and the downs, and had some fun, especially on the downs, and known for giving straight talk. So we'll always give you straight talk. We'll tell you where the market stands, and then you can sort of collect my information or what we're sharing with the Miami Condo Investing Club, or what you're hearing on the street. You'll probably be hearing it from sell-side people or more Chamber of Commerce-like, and you put the two together, and that should help you to form your base case as to how the market could go forward and kind of what you want to do to either get into the market or sit on the sidelines and wait for the market to catch up. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to start to get into some of the details.